pretty soon it's going to be hot outside, and we might want to water our plants in the middle of the day. But if we water our plants, it's going to burn a hole through the leaves. Is that fact or fiction? Right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast. So, yeah. Do you, Batavia, water your plants in the middle of summer, in the middle of the day?
Rarely, but there is the occasion where either the morning's gotten away from me and I'm just worried that the plant won't make it through the evening. So, but I do want, just as a housekeeping item, I do want to say that you opened the episode and said soon it will be warm, and not like a guarantee on that. I'd like you to tell me specifically, and you can do this offline, when it will be warm. So I'm just saying, go on.
No, I'm not going to do it offline. I'm going to tell you that in 45 days it's going to be warm.
Oh.
There's that.
Okay. All right. It better be. Impressed. Yeah. I mean, I'm not convinced. That's what I don't.
I tried to pick something as close as I could to when it would warm up. I tried. I but no, seriously. When you watered your plants in the middle of summer, though, did you freak out and think that they were going to burn? Like little tiny holes would burn char through the leaves and everything? No,
but I think that there are already some habits that I have when it comes to watering that it's not even a second thought to me. So, there's some containers that I would water midday in a minute and not think twice about it. And that's just because I know how dry they can get. But I'm oftentimes watering at the soil level. So there's not a lot of opportunity for that. I'm also not concerned about when it rains in the middle of the day either. So.
Yeah. That's true. So. The difference with that, though, is when the sun's out, that's the problem. So when people use this phrase, they're worried that the sun's going to come down and it's going to shine onto the water droplets, and then it's just going to char right through it, man. You're going to go out there and it's going to look like somebody took a machine gun and just all through it, and your plant's going to die. And it's going to drop dead and shrivel to the ground.
Good night.
So, yeah.
It's very dramatic of gardening, yeah.
But, that's, when people say that, that's how I think. Because they make it seem like it's the end of the world as we know it. Like, there's no way that you can overcome that.
Yeah.
And I regularly water in the middle of the day. I have to water my leaves in the middle of the day in the summertime. So.
And you're doing that
to cool the plant down.
Yep.
When it starts getting real hot, I'll take sometimes I'll be lazy and I'll just turn my sprinkler on and let it, it'll do its trick. Sometimes I'll do a fine mist. I've done that before. The greenhouse, I'll for sure have to do it, and I might have to do that 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Just to kind of stretch out, and it might only be 5 minutes. It's just enough to cool it down. And it's called in the greenhouse, it's the technical term, it's called wetting down.
Okay.
Because all of the surfaces will get wet, and then it'll create humidity, and then that will actually cool the surrounding temperature. But I have not had, spoiler alert, I have not had anything really char yet.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen leaves burn. Like I've seen, sure with flowers, but I'm not connecting it to there wasn't any watering that happened at that point. It's always those pesky, full sun plants that really aren't full sun plants. But I for sure can remember times, and this is when it comes to some of my bigger brassicas, like maybe not so much kale, but for sure collards. If I see real bad drooping during the day and I kind of count back to if I can remember, or if I can't remember the last time I watered them, I'll sit on a milk crate with, the sprinkler and just spray it completely overhead and all of that. But there's also for me, the balance of sometimes the weather is so hot, you're going to experience drooping. So I kind of have to, make the judgment of, does it really need to be watered, or is it just, a super hot day here? So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. When you go outside, I know it's a little early, but let's say we're going outside and, go outside in June and look out. You don't see holes in the leaves.
Yeah, no.
Right? From the trees and stuff. You don't see that. And, it rains and the sun will come out a lot.
Yeah.
Or if you put water on your arm, you don't get burned, do you?
No, you don't. But I do think that there is some, and not for this true or false, but there is some acknowledgement of different leaves have different thickness. There's a different texture when it comes to some plants and trees and so on. And so some of them are built to kind of manage more wear and tear, if you will.
Yeah, I just don't subscribe to the sun magnifying through the water and burning. I can't even begin to like pretend that I subscribe to that at all, because when I first started gardening way back in the dark ages, I had heard, this is one of the first things I heard, and I was like, oh no, there's no way. And at the time, I was also I went to a 3-year bonsai school, 2-year bonsai school, excuse me. And we asked the guy that was teaching about that, and he was like, go out and look in the greenhouse right now. And we would go outside. It was in the middle of summer when they had the class. Well, they had it year round, but this was in the middle of summer. And we went out, and they had sprinklers going on everywhere, trying to keep everything cool, because it was a heat wave in New England. And, he was like, that's the most asinine thing. I mean, he was like straight. And you're talking about, this is a place of peace and tranquility. You know what I mean? Like, they had it done up righteous. And he was like, that's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, wow. I mean, it was groundbreaking to me. I was like, there's no way, dude. And so I went home, and he actually before I went home, he told me, he was like, sometimes, depending on how your weather's been, it's better to water in the middle of the day.
Okay.
Because if you've had like a lot of, you're like periods of rain and not rain and stuff like that, things are real saturated. He's like, sometimes you might want to water it in the middle of the day just to give it a chance to absorb some, but not let it stay like totally soggy for a long time. Because up there we would have really wet, I believe it was springs maybe. It was really wet springs, so sometimes we'd have to, do that. And then coming down here, it's all about cooling off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was thinking to myself, I wonder where that belief began. But I mean, there's so many of them that track back to so much time, and you can have a conversation with 5 different gardeners and get a variation of opinions on something like this too, which is pretty interesting. That's the danger in the truth or the false.
I'm going to look it up real quick about when it was, like how it came about, because as I sit here and I think about it, the only thing I can think of is like a total asshole that came up with it. Like trying to trick people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's just, because it's just so wrong. And when you go look at different websites and stuff, I mean, there's a lot of them on here, but it's always one that's like, it's just plain wrong. So I don't know how it came about. Give me about 30 seconds.
I wonder if it's because, I want to search for some truth in that, right? And I don't know why I want there to be a little bit of truth in that. Because I'm now thinking about, I wonder if there is some, while it won't burn the leaves, there's still some impact, right? So the plant has to fight off kind of that warm water, perhaps. But as I say that out loud and continue to buy you a little bit of time, that still doesn't that doesn't resonate with me either. I mean, I think the reason why I wanted to continue to do this series, which this episode closes out, this spring, true or false, is because there's some things that, are gospel to people. If they hear it from another gardener, then it becomes the truth. And now you have this whole kind of garden, these garden steps that you either are doing or not doing based on faulty information. For work, we call it garbage in, garbage out. So you're building a garden practice, if you will, based on information that many will deem faulty. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just question everything.
I can't find the origin, but what I did see was it's actually people, when they witness it, what they're witnessing is cold water and a hot leaf I think can create crinkling and stuff like that. And I can kind of see that, but because I know, like, when I was up north, I mean, the water, when it came out of the hose, dude, in the middle of summer, it was freezing cold coming out of the ground. Here, it's not as bad, but I could see that as being an issue. But the direct saying is the sun will burn it, turning it into Swiss cheese. That is the actual
Like shred the
saying,
leaves,
so,
yeah.
shred the leaves. So I don't know. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. It's interesting that it could be a temperature change thing, but that kind of goes back to why I do it is because of the temperature change. It's to lower the temperature. So, and I know that when I did not do it and then I started doing it, there was a big difference in the fact that, you know, my tomatoes, for instance, they'll drop their flowers in the middle of summer, but once I started, like, if the days were going to get hot and I turn it on, they will continue to fruit throughout the summer, you know, with minimal flower drop if I stay on top of it, which there's a big if on that.